what do you think was Ojukwu's biggest mistake in the war?
Well, from my own analysis, I believe that 3 things happened. Again, not what I knew before the war, but from most of the things that I heard and read after the war by other authors and other commentators. 3 things happened. First is that I think at some point he became thick-headed.
Mm.
Yes, at some point he became thick-headed. I was not willing to listen to other people.
To anybody?
To his advisors. That was one.
So that means he was more or less like, this war must be done, this war must be done.
Yeah. So he became a little bit autocratic.
Mm.
And that's not the best thing for a leader. More so in a war situation. But again, I wish you could interview him, but he's not there.
Mm. Didn't that help?
It didn't help him. It didn't help because he now created more enemies.
Okay.
Internal enemies.
Okay.
Number 2 was he did not, after that first encounter with Nigeria, of course, he didn't know at what point he'll have put brakes. Because when somebody like Zeke, who is a sage, like I called him either, when I say he's a wizard, it's not abusive. What I mean is that he call him a fox. I mean, that is, he could see what other people are not seeing. I get him. Can't abuse Zeke. I call a witch. He was not an ordinary guy. That's the point I'm trying to make. He had a high level of perception or consciousness that is not just normal. So when Zeke and people like Zeke started calling him back and say, we have tried. This is the time to change course.
I mean, you were calling him back to end the war?
Yes, to look for a negotiated settlement.
But he insisted?
He was not forthcoming.
That should be the bravest thing to do, because if you are in a shoe, you will do same. The way you were stubborn during the war and facing the enemies but square-headedly.
Yeah, I agree, but the other thing is this. There's a time to face reality. There's a time to face reality. In anything that you do, you must know the point. If you read my book, Wired to Lead, one of the lessons there I say, do not die in your mistake. There's a point you get, you say, I think there's a U-turn in front. You are going the wrong direction, let me take the U-turn. The time he left the country was too late. And he abandoned us. He left a very, even though it was strategic, but he left a psychological thing as if the leader has run away. But he was trying to stop Biafra from being defeated. Now, if it is today and he was still alive, maybe the war could have been continuing in other ways. But first is the issue of he became a little bit too egoistic and thought he knew all things, and that affected his ability to take advice. He didn't know when to adjust course. Because from what I've read, the Zigs and some other people got at a point and they became his enemies because they were saying, look, I think we have come this far. Zeke was willing. Zeke went out, he was not able to brought recognition from Tanzania, all those his off Pan-African friends. But when a man like that says, I think we need to look for another idea, this thing cannot be won in the field, he should have listened. That's what I'm saying.
Apart from that one, what other ones?
That's all I can find. There's not much. Those 3 things are for all the things I see that, because as I said, I give him thumbs up for not starting the war when we wanted it, for at least building some strength for Biafra, military strength before the war.
Now,
but that would have collapsed much earlier. The resistance wouldn't have lasted that long.
Now, why do you think Biafra lost the war? Do you think majorly it was this Ojukwu's mistake that you listed, or under equipment, food blockade, saboteurs, or other major reasons?
There was a combination, but the most effective one was that we were overgunned, we were overpowered by a superior military power, a superior military arsenal, and that superior military arsenal was supported by two world powers, by United Kingdom and by Russia.
You were the one supplying them those?
Yes, even flying their MiGs.
Wow.
They were flying some of their aircraft. And America that had a natural flair decided to be neutral because they felt this was British territory. So they didn't want to. But the Americans themselves knew. I mean, there was this guy who bought himself in America, who set himself on fire because of Biafra.
Wow.
Because of Biafran children. You know, he's a hero in America and in the annals of Biafra and Igbo. So those were issues. And like I said, these are things you do after a war has ended.
Biafra produced their own weapons?
Yeah, we did. We produced our weapons. First of all, we refined our petroleum. Nigeria was blockaded Biafra, you know, so we were self-sufficient. Hunger was a key issue because young children were dying. Even people when countries like Gabon and Ivory Coast decided to help export, in quotes, the children to those countries to treat them. Many more. So the effect of the hunger, starvation, the blockade, and then the limited arms supply or ability to replenish stock all helped to bring the war to an end.
I heard Chike, there is this former Imo state governor, I think from 1997, that watched his interview on this same Biafra War. Chike Uchenwa. Yes. He said weapon was not the problem of Biafrans. That the major thing that happened was the food blockade. That even some soldiers could not even really feed properly. That if you're looking at some soldiers, you could count their ribs and things. I
don't think he was in the war front. If he
said he fought directly into the trenches.
No, how can he say the weapon was not our problem? Weapon was the major problem. Because you had more weapon, we'll have captured more grounds and we'll have dealt with food. When they were pushing us closer and closer, limiting the space and not allowing even agricultural production to go place. The major thing is that we had inferior weaponry. We had it in, I mean, if you score Nigeria weaponry 100%, you could keep Biafra 25. Even with all our efforts, heroic efforts to make those very wonderful but crude bombs. And
Biafra produced them, all of them.
Yeah, what kept Biafra was more of will, commitment, zeal, you know, patriotism on the belief in the Biafran cause. That's why we're fighting with empty hands. It was grief. The hunger was an accelerator, blockade, but the major thing was that if we had enough weapon to compete, what about the Air Force? How many aircraft did we have? They were bombing markets, bombing every place, bombing schools, bombing. So if you escaped the war in the front, the civilians were subjected to air raids every day, everywhere. Sometimes they would come down so low because there wasn't even anti-aircraft machine. That's why lack of weapon is number one, and I'm ready to argue with anybody. Yes, for hunger was the second, but it was not the primary. If we had enough weapons, we could have captured more grounds, we could have defended our space, they wouldn't have taken much of the place. Of course, sabotage came because also people got weary.
Yes, sabotage.
People became weary, and of course, when like I said, from what I've read, Ojukwu became a little bit, more autocratic, created more enemies, and that enemies created. And then the final one was I think the way Ojukwu made a major mistake was trying to invade Midwest and Western Nigeria. That was a major problem. We wasted resources, wasted our time, wasted effort, wasted money. and caused much untold pain. Because we could have stayed in fighting Biafra. What were we coming to do with Western Midwest? Even if we got to Midwest Benin, why do we want to go to liberate Western Nigeria? You know what we're coming to do? And got to Ore because of Banjo's communication with this poets and artists.
They say it's also big Banjo that betrayed that Midwest achievement.
But that's all part of the problem. We didn't need to. We didn't need to at all. It was an exaggeration. You've not fully defended your own place. You are now going into a major to win other territories.
Don't you think
excessive show? That was very strategic error.
I listened to one of the person interview that fought on the Nigerian side. This is his name. He was generally Idama, something Idama like that.
Yeah.
He fought on the Nigerian side.
Yeah.
He said this thing you are saying now that you said Ojukwu was Ojukwu's mistake.
Yeah.
He said in fact that was Biafra's mistake. That it wasn't really a mistake. That Biafra's mistake was the fact that they were only on the defensive side, not offensive. He said what Biafra was always doing was only defending and counter. That if you see Biafra attacking a place, that either they are trying to counter attack or try to defend, that they could have taken Lagos with seamless effect. He said if they have sent troops down to Lagos and captured Lagos, that could have been a huge boost for the Biafran people, but they were just busy defending rather than doing some offense. Because I also read through your account here.
He's so, I'm sorry to say, simplistic. Do you know that capturing a place is not the problem? You must occupy the place. Can you see the distance between even Benin and Ore? Not talk of Ore and Lagos. What kind of size of troops?
He said with 300 soldiers, he can capture Lagos. I'm watching what he said, verbatim.
No, I said with 300 soldiers. I'm opposing him. You're opposing that.
He can capture.
That's simplistic. You can arrive, but you can't stay. When you come with 300 and there's a mobilization of 1 million or one brigade or 1,000.
He said all the soldiers were down in the war front. There were none. There was no more soldiers apart from just one.
Which was why they were able to get to Ore. The point is that yes, if the plan was as they had planned, if Banjo and Obasanjo and Woloshenka, they were in this group that wanted West liberated. They were in that clique. Banjo, Obasanjo, and Woloshenka. But the arrangement failed because it was the surprise element. The surprise you can get anywhere. But are you going to be able to sustain the and then still occupy the rest of the place?
And his name is Alabi
Sama. Yes. He was on the Nigerian side, and he one of those who have written and spoken about this. I disagree with him. For me, that was the most strategic error. We lost the support of the Delta people. We caused them so much pain when they were retreated. That was when Murtala came and murdered the people he murdered in Asaba.
Now, exactly where I want to come. I want to talk about the Asaba Massacre. Yeah. What happened and how did it happen?
No, Asaba happened that after the Biafrans crossed to go to try to capture Midwest, I was going to capture Western Nigeria. So when they retreated, after the people get angry and say it was you people that gave these people opportunity to cross here. You opened the gate for them. So they held the Asaba men as being responsible for facilitating that's my origin of the issue. And then the people gathered to welcome a man who had come to liberate them.
The Nigerian soldiers.
Murtala Muhammad. And he wiped them out. I think it was a response to that. For me, it was a strategic mistake. You were fighting for your own freedom. You have not finished gaining your own freedom. You want to become a freedom fighter for somebody else. With what ammunition? With what forces? With what resources? So that thing it was what facilitated, because you now created so much suspicion, so much anger, so much division and dissipation of energy, trying Banjo, trying this person, and then killing people who will fight United, and killing people who were already part of your Biafra. They were, so it's just erupted. If for me it's a strategic error, I wouldn't have done that any way at all. I wouldn't have with what force? With what resources will you do that?
But why would the Asaba people that try to just come out and welcome them? Why didn't they confront them rather than welcoming them that led to their massacre?
With empty hand, are you going to confront them? They are not soldiers. People are civilians. Yes, now welcoming somebody who has conquered the. I mean, you are looking for safety. You are looking for accommodation. You know, to show that we are not part of Biafra. And then the response they got was, "That's my own reading and that's my own explanation." People can have their own explanation. If I saw any strategic error from in addition to those three things I have talked about, lack of when Ojukwu became now a little bit egoistic, you know, then he started being autocratic, not taking advice from elders, not knowing when to renegotiate, and finally the major strategic error was that Western Nigeria expedition. It was wrong-headed. It was a ploy to draw him out and weaken him and weaken Biafran, and I think that's how it ended.
Now, I want us to come to, there is this mantra that most people used to say now online and every now and again, especially when these Biafra talks come up. Many people will say, Ozemena, which means another should not happen again. Do you think it's inevitable that with the way Nigeria is going, there could be another civil war?
There is a possibility. Even though in my concluding chapter I said that war was war of national unity. I think it was a war of Nigeria unity. My thinking then was that the lessons we learned from that war should prevent another war. But so far, I don't think we seem to have learned sufficient lesson. The nepotism is still there. The tribalism is still there. The sectionalism is still there. The corruption is still there. The discrimination is still there. The marginalization is still there. These were the elements of what led to the war. They haven't changed significantly. So if we do not address these issues as a nation, people are talking about restructuring. That may be one way. But Nigeria, if it's left the way it is, you know, tottering on the breaches, we're trying to deal with the economic issues, which this government is trying to do by the bold reforms, even though those bold reforms are not being matched by appropriate expenditure control. As I said, this government seems to have resolved the income crisis, the revenue crisis, but they are yet to deal with the expenditure crisis. So until we deal with the expenditure crisis and arrest the wastes in the country, the benefits of the revenue, extraordinary revenue we are receiving will not rub on us. Government must tighten all the knots and stop the praising display of wealth and waste of resources by government at different levels, but more so in the National Assembly and in the federal executive and all around us. And Nigeria must deal with corruption. If we don't deal with corruption, all these things will continue to stay. So my hope is that even though those ones are important, what's most important is national cohesion. We need a leader who is going to say, I want to be a Nigerian leader. I want to treat every segment of this country fairly. I want Nigerians to participate in deciding how they want to relate with each other. We need to fashion a new constitution that redefines who is a Nigerian citizen, what it takes to be a Nigerian citizen, and how we want to live with each other in a mutually beneficial way. While one side will not feel the other side is cheating it. While one side will not feel that it's a forced unity. We don't need to do that, and I think it's doable. And I'm praying that God shall get to that. Until we get to that level, we cannot say, nobody can say there cannot be another war. There's nobody that can say, I don't wish it, because I would never wish my enemy to see a war. I don't want my students to see some of the things I described there. That's why I wrote this book, so that we can learn lessons. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have. Our political people get to office and they get drunk by power, and they lose consciousness and contact. I just pray that they wake up and make sure that we do not go through this again.
Now, some people believe that Ojukwu leaving the country, you said it was strategic. Some believe he ran away as a coward.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I don't think he ran away as a coward. It was a strategic move. He didn't want, because if he was caught, that meant the end of the war, because the war was so personalized.
Okay.
But he left, kept an open door for the war. Like I said, if it was today, with technology of today, we would have gone into guerrilla warfare, and the war wouldn't have ended.
Yes.
Because if you catch the leader, it's as if the war. So he escaped to allow the war and also opportunity for negotiation. Because if he was caught, then our negotiating power would be zero. So it was a strategic, but it gave the Biafran people a feeling of abandonment, when the leader ran away, in quotes. But I think it was not out of personal
first move.
I think I would have supported that move at that time, and that was why I said there would have been a time for course readjustment. As much as we believed in the righteousness of our cause, the reality was that at a point, it was clear we have made that point. That's my point. Make your point, and then move on. You don't, we're not God. It's only God that has the absolute answer to every question. He is the God of justice. He knows what is right. You've been badly treated, say it. Resent it. But if you see that the forces against you cannot support you on that proposition, you close the matter and leave it to God.
Now, what do you think was all of your experience? What do you think was the biggest betrayal that the Biafran cause experienced that caused them the war, or that impacted the war negatively against them?
I think the biggest, if you call it betrayal, I do not know, but it's a divide and rule.
Because some say they send money for weapons and things like that.
Divide and rule.
Like Azigoro, something like this.
It is the divide and rule of Nigeria. When Nigeria was able to separate the Ijaw from the Igbo, from the Efik and the Anang and all that, isolated Igbo people. And these their brothers now became their enemies. Or if they were not their enemies, they became routes through which the enemies reached them. That was it. That was a
major betrayal.
The head of Air Force was a German. I don't know if I can remember his name. The head of the Navy was not an Igbo. It was somebody from the Cross River, Anang or Efik person. Biafra we went to war united, but halfway we got divided.
How did they manage to divide them?
Is this creation of states?
Within the war, they are creating the states?
Yes, now they created the state just before the war started.
So before the war started, they created the state. Doesn't mean those who now separated themselves?
Yes,
and now
that's why when we ran from Port Harcourt, the Rivers people, 90% didn't run. When the Nigerian army entered Port Harcourt in 68, 90% of the people stayed back, and they were the people who acquired the property of Igbo people that you call abandoned property. It's because they've already been told, these people are your oppressors. All these buildings, just let them, you can have them. They sold all these kind of things to them, and they believed them, but they are all finding out that the enemy who can almost always sell any type of thing to divide you, because at the end of the day, nobody will say that the whole thing was good for anybody.
Now, one of the things
it wasn't good for anybody. The war was not good for except those who sold arms.
Now, one of the things I wanted to read out from your book on one of the ways you said we could be able to avert this thing from happening again is on your point number 4. You said we introduce a single national language, which could be used everybody generally. How can that be possible in this heterogeneous?
It's possible.
How?
The way things can be, don't we have one curriculum? The same curriculum is what we are using in the universities. The same curriculum where national policy.
Currently already is English that everybody is speaking. So how do you by introducing one single?
There was a time there was an effort to start Wazobia language.
What was Wazobia language?
No, there was a language. I don't know. You are not grown. It was beginning to get attraction. It's a combination of languages. Some words are in Igbo, some are in Yoruba, some are in Hausa. It's just like the Wazobia. Wazobia is wa, which is Yoruba, come.
Yes.
Bia is come in Igbo. Wazo is come in Hausa. So they were forming that kind of language with something common. and we were going to have one language. See, it is the strongest thing. Countries that succeed are either monolithic in language or in ethnicity. Anywhere where you have mixed languages, mixed ethnicity, that place is always challenging. Look at India. Even though they have a high, that's why at a time they removed Pakistan to remove the Muslims. They created a country for Muslims and left the Hindu because there was no peace.
The war. What do you think about war? Does it look like a good thing to fight?
To be sincere, I do not think that any war is worth fighting, especially except, of course, the war of survival and the war of destiny. What do I mean? There should be no wars, because wars are they're dangerous games, if I want to call them so. But of course, if the only way to survive yourself is to defend yourself, and if it turns out to be a war, well, it's inevitable. The other one is not a physical war, it's the war for your soul, the war for your salvation. The Bible says, work out your salvation with trembling and fear. That's the only other war you should fight, because it is clearly proven that this war is not the end. There is somewhere after now. And while staying in this particular phase is terminable, it has an expiry date. The next stage has no expiration. Wherever you go in that stage, either you go to heaven and be in the presence of the Lord, or you be in hell with Satan, it doesn't end. As somebody said, nobody really dies. Life is a continuum. You move from one stage to another, but after this early stage, there's a second stage, which is proven in the scriptures, proven in every way, except those who decide not to believe. But that's your headache. Whether you believe or not, reality is reality. So if you go to heaven, you still be alive, but you'll be with the Lord. If you go to earth, to hell, you still be alive. But you'll be alive in another phase. It's not the same phase. You wear a different body and you have a different experience. So that one, I think, is worth fighting for. Fortunately, you don't need arms to fight that one. But the one of war, when people go to war for essentially vanity, stupid things, I call them, because this world doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to God. We are only temporary stewards, occupants. There have been people that have been here 100 years. If I fight for this whole place, in another 100 years, this place will not know me. It will not know me. So why fight? Why kill? To be able to take a territory that is only passing. Nobody owns this world permanently. So most of the wars we fought in the world were not necessary. They came as a result of human vanity, human selfishness, human ego. Usually human ego, selfishness, greediness. They're the things that cause wars.
No. So I think we have gone far on this particular episode and we need to stop it here. So, but do you have any final word you may just like to say within 1 minute?
My final word is that Nigeria doesn't need to fight another civil war. That Nigeria-Biafra war, or the Nigerian Civil War, was enough for an all time. All we need to do is learn lessons. Today, people are denying the war story. People are denying the story. They are writing all manner of things about what caused the war, what did not cause the war. We cannot avoid it except we face the real issues, deal with them, and the issues we can deal with. Simple as that.
So guys, that is it. I think we have covered a lot already from this particular episode of the Selahmeditate, and you have shared so much, but time will not permit us. We have gone into other nitty-gritties. But with all this already, if you want to learn more, you can order for his book. Like I said, the Port Harcourt Volunteer Experience of a Young Combatant. And if you appreciate what we do here, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to this channel, share it with those who this is going to impact. I do my best to bring you high calibers of individuals so we can talk on various areas of life. This is majorly on history, because if we understand our history, the country, to be easier for us to know where we are going next, and it will be easier for you also to also know how you can put yourself in order in whatsoever you are doing. Mazi Sam Ohuabunwa here He's a business leader, an entrepreneur. And since after the war, he has been leading some different organizations in areas of businesses. Is there a way you like people to reach out to you, contact your consulting on anything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can read Reach Our Foundation, because most of these books are sold under the auspice of the Sam Ohuabunwa Foundation for Economic Empowerment. You can call our office at Maryland, Lagos, or you can reach us on this number. I'm sure our people will be willing to take whatever need you have and maybe give you opportunity to participate in our own empowerment programs. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
So that is it, guys. I remain your very host, Benzik, and I believe this episode has quite inspired you and has helped you to also know how to also understand the country, where it started from and where we have landed. So I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers.